you know, if you had to stay late or whatever it was to get the job done.
Did what was required for the job.
Yeah, and that always helped. So I might not have been an expert at something, but I was willing to learn it, or I was willing to put the effort or do whatever part I had to get that job done.
Keep your sunny side up, hide the side that gets blue.
Well, podcast listeners, welcome to Manager Memo.
So I guess I'll start way back from the beginning, but not way back.
You were born a small girl.
Yeah, right. My first job out of college, and I guess this is more for the students, I was hired to be a supervisor of a mail unit in a financial services company. And,
where at?
Here in Worcester. It used to be called the Paul Revere Insurance Company. And I got the job because I had leadership experience when I was in college. And, you know, so that's something we tell our students here. And I got hired and I went in, and I found out quickly that no one wanted this job because everyone I met was like, oh my God, you took this job?
You took that job.
I took that job. But I learned everything more about people, about leading. It was a team of all women.
Okay. And what year is this, if I can ask?
Yeah, you can ask. It was 1986.
Okay, all right.
3 of the members of the team were my age, and what became startlingly clear to me was I had had the opportunity to go to college and they had not. They had been working there since high school, so that was a little bit of a challenge. I'm coming in, I'm the same age as them. The other half of the team they were old enough to be my mother. So they had been there for 25, 30 years. So these were all entry-level positions. Many people had never moved out of them, and we were in charge of the mail, which was pretty important back then because
Sure.
you know, there was no email, right?
Email, yeah.
And getting it up so that we could do customer service. And I learned a lot about operational efficiency and communicating and navigating all of that. So I stayed in that position. I guess my message to students, that could be perceived as a stinko job, but I took it.
Started somewhere.
Yeah, I started somewhere, and you know what? I learned a lot. I still look back on it. I still tell stories in the classroom about it. And from there, I moved into human resources, and I loved it. I did a lot of recruiting, and I did a lot of training, and I was made the director of our training and development department, and so I was in charge of all the training for mid-managers and above, and loved that. So I guess I was teaching in the work world before I came here. And so I spent a lot of time, most of my career in training and development. Did a little bit of project business process re-engineering for a while, and then I became the victim of a merger and acquisition, and I kind of changed gears, and that's the abbreviated version of then how I ended up here in education.
What tips, based upon your experience, would you provide to our graduating students?
That first job will not seem glamorous, but it can be pivotal, and it can be what you make of it. I was the supervisor of a mail department. That is not very, but I had to deliver.
Not glamorous.
Unglamorous, but a lot of people would call to complain to me, so I got to meet a lot of people in different departments. When I look back on my career, and I feel like I still have some left, I guess this was my parents. They say there's no substitute for hard work.
Yes.
And I have to. That has always been my mantra. You know, if you have to stay late or whatever it was to get the job done.
Did what was required for the job.
Yeah, and that always helped. So I might not have been an expert at something, but I was willing to learn it, or I was willing to put the effort or do whatever part I had to get that job done. So to me, that's, and I see that even with our successful students, and we have so many today, there really is no substitute for hard work.
Can you provide us with a background of one of the memorable experiences you had as a manager or as a leader? And then we'll ask about the low point.
Always a high when I hear back from a student. And I can think of, you know, absolutely hundreds of them when they get placed, or even if they send me a note and say I'm getting married. I'm happy.
Have you been invited to some weddings?
I have, or you know, and so that to be included in their life, that's the most rewarding thing ever. So yeah.
Obviously, also an indication that you're doing something well as a manager or leader.
Well, sure. Thank you.
How about sort of an uncomfortable time?
Yeah. So and that's, I don't like to say it's easy, but it was back in my financial services area. It was a merger and acquisition, and I had the job of letting people know our unit had been eliminated.
Right.
That is the absolute worst news to have to give to anyone.
When organizations restructure like that or economize, whatever the cliche would be, that's always tough. So how did you handle that with the people, letting them know that their services would no longer be required?
I felt like a lot of them probably knew it was coming. I mean, those things are never
Sure.
a complete surprise. Had to be done face to face. Can't send a note with that kind of news. And I told my manager, I said, I'm just going to pull the Band-Aid off. I'm going to...
You didn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, and I'm just, because it wasn't my decision, but although I had to convey the message, I started the meeting out just saying, I was honest, I guess. I said, this is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. And I said, and I'm sorry. And I apologized ahead of time if I didn't do it right. And I just came out and told them and opened it up. It was important, I think, for the team to vent and talk about it.
Counseling a non-performer in your
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
How does that take place?
When I've had to do that, you have to have
You
something.
pull the Band-Aid off again?
Not always. Sometimes, depending on the level of severity.
Yeah.
I think in those situations, being objective and having actual situations to talk about. It's got to be concrete.
Right, concrete example.
And immediate. So if it happens, to say, listen, here's what happened, here's what needs to change,
Right.
and here's why. And I think using, because I teach communication, using those I statements,
Sure.
not being accusatory, and there's always another side of the story,
Sure,
always.
sure.
And I
And
guess,
it's about the performance, not the individual.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I tell the story, and I still tell this in classes. I had an individual who was in the unit, and he was coming late to work a lot. So we've got this real tardiness problem, and okay, we got to deal with it. And once we opened up the discussion, well, come to find out, he had a second job. He was working nights. So he was changing in his car, coming into work, and I just remember thinking, oh, thank God I didn't go in there 10 barrels, because the poor guy was trying to make ends meet.
Right.
And so we worked with him to say, okay, now we know how to deal with this. So that was easily resolved.
And you're the chair of the
Mhm.
Emerging Leaders Program. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about the Emerging Leaders Program.
I think it's a great program for the students who are in it. They seem to have developed a lot of camaraderie amongst themselves. And the other thing I like about the program is it attracts a wide variety of students. So we have some students who are very involved, and they're those students who volunteer for everything. But it's also, there's a lot of students in there who are saying, I want to get involved, but I don't quite know how. And
Right.
it's been wonderful for them to see them blossom and to understand that they have the potential to be a leader. So I'm a firm believer. I think it's inside everyone, and they kind of have to find their niche.
Well, thank you. And Luanne, it's that time of the podcast where
Oh.
we have a segment called Heard by the Herd.
Oh, okay.
So if you were writing a memo to your team,
Mhm.
what would that memo say, and why is it important?
So it would say thank you, first and foremost.
Okay.
I work with an impressive group of people. I have the privilege of looking at their CVs, looking at their portfolios, and wow. I can't, honestly, it is an impressive group of people, and I feel like we're a team. So I would just say thank you, because everything that gets done around here, it's a group of people, and what an impressive group of
So
people.
an appreciation for the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like thank you. There's just so many skill sets, knowledge bases, and
And it sounds like a respect, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You respect them, they respect you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But sometimes I say I can't believe this. The stuff that people are doing. It's
Yeah.
just it's fantastic.
Well, thank you, Dean Westerling.
Thank you very
so
much.
It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure.
And for all you loyal listeners out there, come back soon for more management ideas from top leaders in the field of business through the prism of what we call the Manager Memo.
Baseball teams make money. Keep your funny side up. Let your laughter come through. Do stand upon your legs, be like two fried eggs. Keep your sunny side up.